At 18, my family didn't even think to pick me up at the airport after my first semester of college. I called 12 times, no one answered. When my sister picked up, she said, "We're celebrating my brother's success, he's really accomplished something." An hour later, my mom texted, "You want attention?" Then stop being a disappointment. Sitting alone on the sidewalk, I looked at my phone and thought, got it. I will no longer be your afterthought. For years later, I implemented a plan that changed everything. Yesterday, my dad sent 37 texts. "Please, we were wrong, come back." I don't even know where to start with this, but maybe it's better to just lay it out straight. My name is Max, I'm 20, and I've never really talked about this outside of a couple of close friends, but I feel like it's eating me alive. So here it goes. It all started when I was coming home for the first time after my first semester of college. I was actually excited, which is kind of hilarious now that I think about it. I'd done better than I expected, nothing genius level, but I passed everything, got a decent GPA, even got a small scholarship for the next semester. Felt like maybe, just maybe, I was finally making something of myself. The flight landed around 3 in the afternoon. I remember checking the time because I thought I'd be late. Turned out I was right on time, but no one else seemed to be. I got off the plane, went through the usual shuffle of people, that weird mix of exhaustion and relief everyone has when they're done flying. I stepped out past security, pulled out my phone, and started looking around for my family. My mom, my dad, maybe even my sister Lyra. They always used to show up for stuff like this. But the longer I stood there, the more obvious it became no one was there for me. At first, I told myself maybe they were just stuck in traffic. I mean, that happens, right? I texted my mom, "Hey, I'm here." Nothing. I tried my dad, landed, "Are you guys close?" Still nothing. 10 minutes turned into 20. People around me were meeting their families, hugging, laughing. That little rush of joy you see on their faces. I stood there, trying not to look like a lost kid, scrolling my phone just to seem busy. But all I was doing was staring at a screen that had no new messages. I started calling. First my mom, no answer. Then my dad, straight to voicemail. Lyra, my sister, who's always glued to her phone for TikTok or whatever, nothing. I even tried my older brother, Dan, though I knew he'd be the last person to pick up. He didn't. The minutes kept passing and I could feel that knot in my stomach tightening. People started giving me those awkward looks, you know, the kind that's a mix of pity and curiosity. Like they were wondering if I'd been ditched. It was nearly an hour before I finally got through to Lyra. When she picked up, her voice was annoyed, like I was interrupting something important. "Can't you just get an Uber? We're busy." That's literally what she said. Busy? Busy with what? I asked, already knowing I wasn't going to like the answer. "Dan's celebration. He got promoted or something. Everyone's here." She hung up without another word. I just stood there, staring at my phone, trying to process what I just heard. My family, my whole family, was at home celebrating my brother's latest success while I was standing at the curb of the airport with a duffel bag and no one to pick me up. And it got worse. Just when I thought I'd hit the lowest point, I got a text. A notification from my mom, Marilyn. It said, "If you want attention, try not being such a disappointment." I read it 3 times. I wish I was exaggerating. I wish this was some dramatic flair for the sake of the story, but that's exactly what she said. Followed by a thumbs up emoji. Like that was supposed to make it better. I don't know how long I stood there, just staring at the text. Maybe I was waiting for a follow-up, something to soften it. Sorry, that came out wrong. But there was nothing. Just that one cruel sentence hanging in the air. I watched the sky start to darken, watched families still reuniting, still hugging, still laughing. I kept thinking maybe someone would text back, maybe they'd realize they'd messed up and come get me. Maybe it was just some misunderstanding. But no one came. Eventually, I gave up. Ordered an Uber with money I didn't really have, sat in the back seat watching the city blur by in the dark. I was trying not to cry, trying to hold it together, but it felt like I was being torn apart from the inside. And when I finally got home, the lights were on, the laughter was spilling out of the windows, music was playing. I stood there for a second, just staring at it. My own house, but it felt like I was watching strangers having a party. I dragged my bag up the steps, knocked because I didn't have my key anymore. Long story, Dad took it because I lost it too many times. My dad opened the door, gave me this look, a mix of surprise and something like amusement. "Oh, look who decided to show up," he said, smirking. No hug, no, "Hey, how was your flight?" Just that. I pushed past him and nobody even looked up. Dan was in the middle of the room, holding court like he always did, his friends hanging on his every word. Lyra was on her phone, Mom was in the kitchen talking with someone I didn't recognize. I was just background noise. I squeezed through the crowd to get to the hallway, but Dan blocked my way, gesturing wildly while telling some story. I tried to step around him, but he shifted, deliberately knocking into me. "Can't you see we're busy?" He grinned, that same smug smile he always wore. I felt this heat rush to my face, this boiling mix of anger and shame. I shoved past him, maybe harder than I meant to. My bag slipped, stuff spilling out onto the floor. Not a single person moved to help. Dan just laughed. Lyra didn't even look up. I scrambled to pick everything up, shoved it all back into the bag, and practically ran to my room. Slammed the door, sat on the bed just staring at the wall, trying to breathe. Trying not to just break right there. I thought about calling someone, but who would I even call? Everyone I knew was busy with their own lives. Nobody wanted to hear about my family drama. They'd just tell me I was being dramatic. Or worse, they'd shrug it off like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was the moment I realized that to them I didn't matter. Not really. I was just there. And that night, as the party finally wound down and the laughter started fading, I made a decision I didn't even fully understand at the time. I wasn't going to beg for a place in my own family anymore. After that miserable homecoming, things didn't exactly get better. If anything, they got worse. I went back to living in my own house like I was some kind of ghost, just another body wandering the halls. You know the feeling when you're surrounded by people but you might as well be invisible? That was my life, day in and day out. I tried. God, I tried. I thought maybe I was overreacting, that I just needed to put in more effort, show them I wasn't just some screw-up. So I started helping out wherever I could. Lyra, my younger sister, always needed help with her homework or figuring out her phone. I was the one who got stuck fixing the Wi-Fi every time it went out, setting up the new router, making sure everything worked. But it was never enough. It didn't matter what I did because nothing changed. I'd walk into the living room and there would be Dan, my older brother, holding court like he was some kind of hero. Mom and Dad would sit there, hanging on his every word, laughing at his jokes. The perfect son. It didn't even matter that most of his stories were just half true. He'd brag about his big deals at work, even though he was just another sales guy barely scraping by. But to them, he was the star. The golden boy. And me? I was just the afterthought. One night, I got home late from my part-time job, exhausted, and the house was dark. I thought maybe everyone was asleep. But when I stepped into the kitchen, I saw them, my mom, Dad, and Dan, laughing around the dinner table. Plates were still out, the smell of roasted chicken hanging in the air. "Oh, Max," my mom said, barely glancing up. "You should have been here earlier." "Yeah, next time try showing up when people actually care," Dan added, and they all chuckled like it was the funniest thing in the world. I just stood there for a second, trying to swallow that knot in my throat. Then I grabbed a glass of water and went straight to my room. Nobody called after me. Nobody checked in. They just went right back to their little perfect world. It wasn't just them ignoring me. It was the little things, the constant reminders that I didn't matter. Like how every time I brought up something I was doing at college, Mom would change the subject. Or how Dad would tell me I needed to learn from Dan if I wanted to be successful. Like success was just copying whatever he did. The worst part was that even when I did something good, it was always overshadowed. I got a small scholarship for next semester, nothing huge, but it felt like an achievement. I told them over dinner, and Dad just nodded, saying, "Well, that's something. But you should aim for a real scholarship next time." A real scholarship. As if what I did didn't count. But I didn't let it get to me. Or at least I tried not to. I thought maybe if I just worked harder, proved myself, they'd finally see me as something more than just the spare kid in the background. So I started covering bills. Little ones at first, the family Spotify subscription, the phone plan. When the internet went down, I was the one who called support and fixed it. When Lyra needed a new laptop for school, I helped her set it up. And I didn't just help out with money. I was the one who drove Mom to her doctor's appointments when her car broke down. The one who stayed up late helping Lyra write her college essays. The one who got Dad a new phone after he smashed his old one in a fit of rage and couldn't figure out how to set it up. They never said thank you. Not once. Then there was the day I found out about the college fund. The one that was supposed to be mine, the one they'd been saving for years. I was in the kitchen trying to make a sandwich after another long day at work when I heard Mom and Dad talking in the next room. "Well, we can always use what's left in Max's college fund for Dan's new car," Mom said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "He's barely using it anyway," Dad replied. "At least Dan will put it to good use." I just stood there, butter knife in hand, feeling like the ground was dropping out from under me. My savings, the money that was supposed to help me build a future, just handed over to Dan without a second thought. I didn't confront them right away. I couldn't. I just walked out of the house, went for a long, aimless drive, trying to get my head straight. trying to understand how I could be so easily discarded. After that, it was like everything clicked into place. The little comments, the constant praise for Dan, the way I was always just a convenience for them. I wasn't their son. I was a spare part. I tried talking to Lyra about it once, hoping maybe she'd get it, but she just shrugged. Dan's always been the favorite. You know that. And what about me? I asked. You're just you, she said, like it was obvious. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my chest heavy, my thoughts racing. I kept replaying everything in my head, all the times I'd tried, all the times I'd been brushed aside. I looked at my phone, at the group chat where they'd make plans without me, at the old texts I'd sent asking for advice or just to talk, left unread or ignored. I was done pretending everything was okay. Done trying to be noticed. But even then, I didn't know what to do. Leaving seemed impossible. Where would I go? But staying felt like drowning, slowly and painfully, while everyone around me just laughed and smiled. So I did the only thing I could. I started pulling back. Little by little, I stopped volunteering to help. I didn't fix the Wi-Fi when it went out. I ignored Lyra's messages when she couldn't figure out her assignments. I stopped covering the Spotify bill. At first, they didn't even notice. Then the complaints started. Max, why is the Wi-Fi down? Lyra, figure it out, I'd reply without even looking up. Max, my laptop's acting up again. Not my problem. And I just watched their frustration grow, watched them scramble for answers like I didn't exist. Because that's how they treated me, wasn't it? It didn't fix anything. Not really. But for the first time, I felt like I had some kind of control. But even then, I had no idea just how far things were about to go. I thought things couldn't get worse. But they did. And the worst part? It wasn't some dramatic explosion or massive betrayal. It was a slow, grinding erosion. The kind that wears you down without you even noticing until there's almost nothing left. After I stopped helping with their endless little problems, my family didn't suddenly change. They didn't apologize or even ask why I was pulling away. No, they just got angrier. My mom started making comments about how some people in the house were lazy, how I needed to start contributing more. Contributing, like I hadn't been carrying half the load for years. But I wasn't backing down. For the first time, I felt like I was in control of something, even if that something was just my own time and energy. So I held my ground. Then there was the incident with Dan's car. It broke down, because of course it did. The thing was a piece of junk he bought secondhand and never took care of. My dad came storming into my room one evening, already in a mood. Max, take Dan to get his part. His car's out of commission. No, I said, not even looking up from my laptop. He paused, like he couldn't believe his ears. Excuse me? I said no. I'm not his chauffeur. This is what family does, Max. We help each other. Really? Because it never feels like I'm family to you guys. I looked up, and the shock on his face almost made me laugh. Maybe you should ask Lyra, or Dan. They seem to be the only family you care about. His face went red. For a second, I thought he might actually hit me. Instead, he slammed his fist into the doorframe beside me. Don't you dare talk to me like that in my house. Your house, your favorite son, your perfect family. Got it? I said, standing up. You want to act like I don't exist? Fine. But I'm done playing along. I shoved past him, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. I didn't even know where I was going. Just away. I ended up wandering around the neighborhood for hours, my mind racing, my chest tight with a mix of anger and something else I couldn't even name. It was in those quiet, lonely walks that I started to realize something. I wasn't just angry. I was done. I was done with their games, with their constant belittling, with being the backup plan they turned to whenever their golden child wasn't around. But just being done wasn't enough. I wanted them to know it. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started keeping records. A list in my phone of every single time I helped them. Every time I fixed something. Every bill I paid. I started taking screenshots of my bank transfers when I covered a shared subscription. Saved receipts for the groceries I bought. I wasn't sure why I was doing it at first, just that it felt necessary. It wasn't long before they started noticing. The Wi-Fi went down one day, and Lyra came barging into my room like she always did. Max, the internet's out. Fix it. No. She blinked like I'd spoken in some foreign language. What do you mean no? Figure it out yourself. She stomped off, slamming the door. An hour later, she was back. Mom says fix the Wi-Fi. Tell Mom she can call the provider. She left in a huff. I could hear her complaining in the hallway, hear my mom's frustrated voice. But I didn't care. Then came the night they tried to corner me in the living room. Dan was there, arms crossed, his smug grin plastered on his face. Dad was in his usual authoritarian stance, like he was preparing for a lecture. "We need to talk," Dad started. "About what?" I leaned against the wall, not bothering to sit. "About this attitude of yours," Mom cut in. "This constant disrespect." Disrespect. I couldn't help but laugh. "You mean not being your free tech support? Or not running after Dan like a lost puppy?" "We are a family," Dad said, as if it was some kind of magic spell. "Family helps each other." "No. Family respects each other. And I've been nothing but your backup plan, your convenient fix-it guy." "You're being dramatic," Dan chuckled. "Maybe if you weren't so bitter all the time." "Bitter?" I snapped. "Of course I'm bitter. I'm the one who's always ignored, always expected to pick up your mess. Like that car you keep crashing." "Don't bring my car into this," he sneered. "Why not? Or how about the time I fixed your laptop? Or helped you with your resume? Or wrote Lyra's essays for her? Or covered the Wi-Fi bill for 3 months because you all conveniently forgot?" Silence. For the first time, they actually seemed surprised. "I can prove it," I continued, pulling out my phone, opening my list. "Every single thing I've done. Every bill I've paid. You want to talk about family? Start treating me like I'm actually part of it." "Stop being so dramatic, Max," my mom snapped, trying to wave it off. "We never asked you to do all that." "No, you just expected it." And that's when I realized they weren't going to change. Not ever. Because to them, this was normal. Using me was normal. So I decided I was done. For real this time. I stopped doing anything for them. I didn't fix the Wi-Fi. I didn't cover the bills. I didn't help with Lyra's assignments. I even stopped talking to them unless I absolutely had to. At first, they acted like it was some childish tantrum. Dad gave me the silent treatment, Mom made passive-aggressive comments, and Dan just laughed like it was all a joke. But they felt it. The little inconveniences started piling up. Lyra missed a school deadline because I didn't help her with her application. Dan's car broke down again, and he had to actually pay a mechanic to fix it. But the real kicker? I stopped paying for their shared accounts, Netflix, Spotify, the phone plan. I switched to my own accounts and let them figure it out. I even canceled the automatic payments I'd set up for their utilities. One night, Dad tried to have another talk. Only this time, he tried to be calm, reasonable. "Max, you can't just shut us out like this." "I'm not shutting you out. I'm just not letting you use me. We're family," he repeated, like a broken record. "Family doesn't treat each other like dirt. Maybe if you acted like a son instead of a spoiled child." "Spoiled?" I laughed. "Right? That's why you used my college fund for Dan's car. That shut him up." He stood there, jaw clenched, unable to meet my eyes. He didn't even deny it. "I'm done, Dad," I said, my voice steady. "If you want a son, you better start acting like you have one." And with that, I grabbed my backpack, my laptop, and I walked out. Not just out of the room, out of the house. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel scared. I felt free. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. Walking out felt like stepping off a cliff. But instead of falling, I found myself breathing, really breathing, for the first time in years. I didn't have a clear plan, just a stubborn determination that I was done being their backup plan, their free tech support, their emotional punching bag. The first few nights, I crashed on a friend's couch. I didn't even bother explaining the whole story to him, just told him I needed a place to stay for a bit, and he didn't ask questions. That's what real friends do, I guess. I tried not to think about my family, but it was impossible not to. Every time my phone buzzed, a part of me hoped it was one of them, an apology, maybe even just a text saying they missed me. But when the messages finally came, they weren't apologies. Not even close. "Max, where are you? You're acting like a child. Stop being dramatic." Just come home and stop this nonsense. If you think you're hurting us, you're only hurting yourself. I didn't respond. I let the messages pile up, watched as the tone shifted from annoyed to desperate. My dad even tried calling, his voice fake calm, like he was trying to talk me down from a ledge. We can work this out, Max. But you need to stop being so stubborn. Stubborn. That's what they called it. Not standing up for myself. Not finally setting boundaries. Just being stubborn. But the real fun didn't start until they realized what my absence actually meant. Because I wasn't just gone physically, I was gone from their lives in every practical way too. The Wi-Fi went down? Not my problem. The shared family Spotify? Cancelled. Netflix? Gone. Even the phone plan I switched to a solo plan, left them with the bill. At first, they tried to guilt me. Max, we're family. You can't just abandon us. I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm just done being your free support. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. My sister Lyra missed a school deadline because I wasn't there to help her format her essay. My brother Dan's car broke down again, and he actually had to pay for a mechanic this time. My mom's phone glitched and she had no idea how to fix it. The group chat was chaos. Complaints, blame, back and forth between them. At first, they tried pretending it was no big deal. We don't need Max for everything. But then the bills started stacking up. Turns out I've been covering a lot more than they even realized. The phone plan was the first shock. They hadn't noticed I was paying for half of it. Then the subscriptions. Then the internet bill. One night, I was sitting on my friend's tiny balcony scrolling through Instagram when I saw it, a picture of Dan, looking all proud, captioned, "Family First." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. Family first. Sure. As long as I was the one holding it all together. But even as I watched them struggle, even as I ignored their desperate calls, I felt something else, something darker. Satisfaction. Because for the first time in my life, they were feeling exactly what they'd made me feel for years, helpless, ignored, and unimportant. But I didn't stop there. I started making sure they couldn't use me even if they tried. I went through all the shared accounts I'd been connected to: Netflix, Spotify, the cloud storage, even the Amazon account. I changed passwords, removed my payment info, locked it all down. Let them figure it out. I blocked my mom and dad's numbers, but I kept Lyra's unblocked. Not because I wanted to talk to her, but because I wanted to see the fallout. And she didn't disappoint. Max, you're ruining everything. Mom is losing it. Dad's furious. Why are you doing this? I ignored her. Watched as the messages got angrier, then desperate. Please, Max. I need help with my college apps. I can't get my transcripts. You always did it. I'll pay you. Please. Pay me. That one made me laugh. Like she actually thought a couple of bucks would fix everything they'd done. And then Dan finally texted me. Or rather, tried to guilt me. You think this is funny? Leaving everyone to struggle? You're a selfish, bitter little loser. Says the guy who took my college fund to buy a car, I replied. He left me on read. Classic Dan. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I started talking, not just venting, but telling people the full story. Our relatives, friends, anyone who'd listen. I showed them the screenshots, the texts, the receipts of everything I'd done for my family while they treated me like a doormat. I didn't expect much. People don't like getting involved in family drama. But I wasn't trying to win them over. I just wanted the truth out there. No more pretending we were some perfect, happy family. And it started working. My aunt called my mom, told her she'd heard what was going on. My mom tried to play it off, saying I was just going through a phase. But the more I talked, the less she could control the narrative. Then, one night, I got a call from my dad. I don't know why I answered. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I wanted to hear what he'd try this time. Max, this has to stop, he said, his voice low and serious. No. It doesn't. You're tearing this family apart. No, Dad. I'm just not holding it together for you anymore. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. And I hung up. The messages didn't stop. But I was done caring. I moved in with another friend, started picking up more shifts at work, saved up enough to rent a tiny studio apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. My space. My rules. My mom tried to show up once, banging on my door, demanding I talk to her. I didn't even get up from the couch. I watched her through the peephole, her face a mix of anger and desperation. Eventually, she left. The funniest part was how they tried to keep up appearances. Lyra kept posting happy family photos on Instagram, pretending everything was perfect. Dan kept bragging about his big accomplishments. But the cracks were there. The group chat went silent. Their perfect little world was crumbling. And for once, I wasn't the one holding it up. It felt like revenge. Sweet, quiet, undeniable revenge. Not the dramatic, fiery kind. The slow, painful kind where they were forced to see exactly what they'd done. And the best part? I didn't have to do anything except live my own life. I wish I could say they apologized, that they came to me with tears in their eyes and begged for forgiveness. But that's not how people like them work. They never apologize. They just find someone else to blame. But they couldn't blame me anymore. They couldn't use me. They couldn't pretend everything was fine. And I couldn't stop smiling.